Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan,
And I'm Rob.
and today's episode is Fantasy Baseball's Fountain of Youth.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
All right, today we're going to be going over some older players that need your attention.
Very googly moogly.
And we're going to be starting with Robbie Grossman out in Detroit. Rob, give us the rundown right now on this man.
Robbie Grossman is a great fill-in right now. A lot of outfielders hit with injuries, most notably last week, Mike Trout. Guys stealing bases, guys hitting home runs. I believe he's on a one-year contract with Detroit going nowhere this season. I wouldn't be shocked to see him get flipped to a contender. He's a leadoff hitter. It's my favorite role in any fantasy lineup. Robbie Grossman needs to be rostered. I'm very shocked that he is not universally owned currently at the moment.
You and me, we just picked him up in my leagues, 61% rostered in Yahoo. That's up 7% from last week. Last night he did go 1 for 4, just still a single, but someone to keep an eye on. Let's move over to Pittsburgh now. Adam Frazier, another older guy in the middle of his career. What are you thinking about him?
Yeah, Adam Frazier, again, I feel like very similar to that of Robbie Grossman out in Detroit. Adam Frazier's being looked over because he plays for Pittsburgh, but this guy's just hitting, flat out hitting. I believe he's hitting over 300 right now. We're about, 2 months into the season. You're looking for average. A lot of star hitters right now hitting 200 and below left and right. Adam Frazier can definitely fit that void for average runs, a few stolen bases here and there, as well as home runs.
Next guy I want to talk about here, Arizona outfielder David Peralta. Obviously, this is somebody who made a splash on a lot of people's teams for a while. He's been off and on. He's, I think, like 33 years old now. He did go 0 for 4 last night. Are we keeping an eye on him?
Yeah, David Peralta's more of a watch candidate. I believe he's hitting in the meat of that lineup in Arizona, albeit not the greatest lineup right now in the majors, but he's hitting for power. Looks like last year was more of a mirage. Wasn't hitting all that well last year, but just a few seasons ago, this guy was a stalwart. Keep a close eye out on him. He might be reverting back to just a couple seasons ago where Peralta was a really solid bat.
All right, shortstop from Miami, Miguel Rojas.
Yes, we've talked about Rojas a few times. This guy just continues to hit. Power and speed combo, very similar to that of Robbie Grossman. He's getting on base both. One thing about Grossman that I didn't bring up that I like in Rojas, the guy's taking walks, not striking out a lot. That helps in OBP leagues, OPS leagues. Shortstop this year has kind of been a wash. I know I have Eugenio Suarez, who we've talked about a few times, pretty much rotting in my shortstop position. Miguel Rojas is just a nice little fill-in right now, batting, I want to say, second. Unlike that of Peralta, who had a terrible 2020, Miguel Rojas kind of burst out onto the scene last year, and it's overflowing into this season. I think Miguel Rojas is a really good find right now.
All right, third baseman, Evan Longoria of the San Francisco Giants. At 35 years old, one of the older geezers on our list. 18% owned in rosters in Yahoo at the moment. Are you thinking we keep an eye on him right now if you're in a tough spot? I think he went 3 for 4 last night with a homer.
Yes.
Starting to heat up a bit.
Yeah, Evan Longoria just continues to hit. Injuries has always been kind of his thing the last few years, but looking back, this guy has a track record. San Francisco has been sneaky good this year, ironically enough. And the one thing that in common with everybody we've talked about so far, they're all on, kind of wishy-wash teams that I don't think people are paying attention to. But again, I have Anthony Rendon, who's struggling for me right now, that Evan Longoria, as of right now, is performing better than.
Not the oldest dude in the world, but he's been in the league for a while, since about 2012. Avisail Garcia, kind of up and down with his career as well. He's a right fielder out in Milwaukee right now. We've talked about him on the show before. Are you convinced of him this season, or is this still one of those middle-of-the-pack players for you?
Well, the one thing with Avisail Garcia is, this guy is just a StatCast darling. He's hitting the ball extremely hard, and playing time is not going to be that of concern for Avi right now. He has been played with a couple minor injuries this year. I know there was a lot of hype kind of going into him this year, losing weight. And I think people have tapered off on him a little bit. He's probably been dropped left and right in a few leagues. I know I picked him up and dropped him a couple times. But Avisail Garcia, if he's hitting the ball, this guy needs to be rostered. And as of right now, that's exactly what he's doing. And he's also stealing bases. Again, stolen bases is a very hot commodity these days. Not a lot of guys running. So anytime you can get power speed combo kind of guys, they need to be rostered. like that of Avisail Garcia.
13th year veteran Brad Miller, shortstop, second, basically an infielder for the Phillies. What are your thoughts on him right now?
Yep, very similar to that of Avisail Garcia. Don't have to worry about playing time. Just yesterday was batting third. Position eligibility is a plus right now with Brad Miller. He's homering, he's stealing bases. With Harper going on the IL, that only solidifies more and more that this guy's going to stay in the lineup. So keep a close eye out on Brad Miller. This guy was a big prospect not too long ago. Might be just kind of finding his stride here a little later on in his career.
And 33-year-old Tommy Pham. Seen him bounce around a little bit. I think a lot of people probably had him, relatively high in drafts as a solid value player this season, but hasn't really panned out for the first start of the season. What are your thoughts on him going forward?
Tommy Pham, it just seems like he's starting to hit with Trent Grisham going on the IL. Playing time is not going to be that much of a concern. So it's his time to shine. Again, he is hitting the ball very hard, very similar to that of Brad Miller and Avisail Garcia. Right now, he's got playing time. So if he shows something, they're not going to take him out of this lineup. San Diego is the best team we're talking about any of these bats right now. And the lineup's just chock full of talent. So Tommy Pham should at least be speculative right now as an ad. But, if you're looking for a guy on a hot streak, not having to worry about being sad every other game, Tommy Pham is your man.
All right, we got another old guy here, Adam Wainwright. Last week, 2 weeks ago, Padres absolutely destroyed him. And then we see he, puts up 8 innings with like 1 hit the other day. What are you thinking as we're walking into the pitchers here about Adam Wainwright?
Yeah, Wainwright's always been kind of, a pretty solid staple. He doesn't get much love, I believe, because of his age. He pitches in a pitcher's park at Busch Stadium. You can't have any better of a battery, behind the plate than Yadier Molina. They've had tons of chemistry together, and he's pitching well. So that of who was it with the Yankees? Corey Kluber that just recently went down. Wainwright might be that kind of pivot guy to go get just to keep you afloat here with starting pitchers. The way they kind of are this year, a lot of them being a little rocky. But yeah, Wainwright, go take a look, see if he's available.
All right, let's go get the San Francisco treat, the Rice-A-Roni. Johnny Cueto, 35 years old, legend in Kansas City, of course. At this point in his career, what are you thinking for fantasy purposes for the rest of the season?
Yeah, he's kind of had a very up and down season, but again, San Francisco's offense is scoring runs. He's pitching in a good pitcher's park right now, and he pitches today against Arizona. I feel like that would be a really great play if you happen to be listening to this and you're looking for a pitcher to stream today, Johnny Cueto. I feel like in this point in his career is becoming that guy, a streaming guy, but pitching well this season. Whip is kind of high, so I'm expecting the ERA to blow up a little bit here eventually. Again, he's an arm, with Corey Kluber going down as we had mentioned. This could be another option.
All right, let's get into a little bit of relief pitching here. Former Athletics pitcher, current Seattle Mariners pitcher, Kendall Graveman, not the oldest guy on this list at 30 years old. I believe he's just placed on the COVID list, though. What are your thoughts going forward? Is this kind of a snag him now, stick him on your IL situation?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Right now, Seattle's been platooning a couple guys out in the closer's role. I believe they're just waiting for Kendall Graveman to come back. He's pitching very well, reinvented himself as a relief pitcher. He was a starting pitcher with the A's. Had a lot of hype going into his career. Much like a lot of guys, they transition once they realize that the starting role isn't a gig. For them, reinventing themselves as either a mid-reliever or a closer, I believe Kendall Graveman could end up being a guy who's going to end up solidifying himself as a closer in the long run, albeit on a not-so-great Seattle team, but hey, a closer is a closer and a save's a save.
All right, at last on the list right here, Blake Treinen, former All-Star, getting a little older, 32 years old. Is this a good time to use him in fantasy, or are we going to kind of just leave him on waiver wires where we see him?
Yeah, I believe Blake Treinen's going to end up being the heir to the closer role out in LA. I know Kenley Jansen's been kind of rocky this year. Blake Treinen had a great season last year after just being completely derailed. I believe it was in 2019 with the A's. They let him go. Dodgers signed him. There's a fountain of youth, I guess, out in LA. Go ask Albert Pujols, who has been doing pretty well since he's been out there. But Blake Treinen is a guy, again, I believe will eventually step up as a closer if something were to happen to Kenley Jansen. This is all speculative, but we're diving a little deep here on the list, looking for some relief pitching help. So I believe Blake Treinen could be that eventually, not right now, but his numbers right now have been pretty solid. So I say either pick him up if you're in dire need of saves, of speculative saves, or at least put him on your watch list.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, his last 3 appearances, he's gotten a save or a hold in each one of those games. So it's been a little while since he's played, but we'll see him back in there again soon. And everybody, right now, he's only 22% rostered in Yahoo League, so he's probably sitting out there on your waiver wire if you need him. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our episode on older players, this baseball fountain of youth. So next time, we will probably be going back and forth between some baseball and football as we get closer to the season. Some of you may have seen the episode last week about the top 10 fantasy football sleepers. If you haven't, go check it out. Until then, this is Fantasy R&R with Rob and Ryan. We will see you next time.